Zafar Islam from the Bharatiya Janata Party. Mr. Islam, it's a very clear question. Why shouldn't the opposition be asking you what is the agenda of a special joint session? Never in the history is what the president of the Congress party has said, that it's happened when a joint session has been called and the opposition is clueless. They don't know what's going to be up for discussion or the agenda.
Priti ji, I'm sure that you know how the business is transacted in the parliament, how the agenda is discussed and then it is placed on the floor of the parliament. Eve of this, every session, every day's agenda is being discussed with the business advisory committee, and the next day it is placed. So when you get to know the agenda just before in the evening of or the eve of the next day's business, you get the entire agenda on the eve of the next day's session. So they will get to know even now the way business is getting transacted in the parliament. Same thing will happen this time. Why there's a hue and cry? No one I have ever seen has made this kind of a statement that we don't know the agenda. Agenda is something which the business advisory committee will discuss, and next day it will be placed on the every member will get to know. Every vendor will get to know in the evening itself, and next morning it will be debated on the floor of the parliament. So is there any problem with that? I do not understand what is the problem, why people are making hue and cry when there is.
Well, it's to give the time to the opposition is what
everyone knows.
To give time to the opposition is what the Congress is demanding. But let me bring in Shama Mohammed into this conversation. Shama Mohammed, the BJP spokesperson, very clear that on the eve of the joint session, your party, other opposition parties will be communicated on what the agenda will be. Why get into fear-mongering? Why create this perception that the government is trying to bulldoze a joint session?
Why should we believe them? There is a special session called all of a sudden. Why can't they call, just as they call the special session, why don't they call an all-party meet? I mean, that is the way our parliament is functioned, an all-party meet, and the government brings in the agenda, there's a discussion, and a consensus is built on what is going to be discussed in parliament. I mean, that's how we worked. How do we believe this government? Tell me. All of a sudden, we see an invite saying Bharat instead of India. And then again, another invite goes from the Prime Minister saying Bharat to the G20 dignitaries. So on what basis are you putting all of a sudden Bharat instead of India? I mean, so they keep taking these decisions all of a sudden. We know sudden decisions take place by Mr. Modi. So how do we believe what they're saying? And last session of Parliament also, we wanted to discuss important issues, but they're not ready to discuss. There is a Prime Minister who comes to Parliament once in a blue and just gives him his Ban Ki Baat. That is what is happening. All Prime Ministers before him. I remember during Manmohan Singh's time, when they came out with this huge 3G allegation, during the session, Mr. Manmohan Singh sat there and listened to it. So that is how the parliament functions. But let me give you one small thing. The Prime Minister of India has traveled all over the world. He comes back and meets our scientists from the BRIC, when he was in South Africa after the BRIC meeting. He lands and meets our scientists. A very good thing. I'm very happy about it. But I want to know, when is he going to Manipur? This complete breakdown of the constitution there. 2 days ago, people were killed. 5 more people killed.
Okay.
Journalists cannot do anything there. They cannot report over there. The Editors Guild report has come out with it. It's not the Congress party. So why is the Prime Minister of India not visiting Manipur? I want to really know about it. What is the solution there? There is still
all right, Shama, stay with me. Fair questions that you've raised. I want to go back. I want to go back. I'd like to go back to Syed Zafar Islam. Syed Zafar Islam, you say, why is the opposition getting into fear-mongering? They'll know the agenda. The question is, sir, it's the government that has somewhere down the line created a massive trust deficit where the opposition is concerned. And I'll give you examples of it. When it comes down to constituting a committee on one nation, one poll, you caught the opposition completely off guard. When it was all the way back in June, when there was talks of formulating a committee as such, the opposition was kept in the dark. You sprung it upon them. Where it came down to the invitation which Shama Mohammed just elucidated, instead of the President of India, it said the President of Bharat. You can argue that it's legal, but the opposition can argue under the Constitution, Section 52, it's illegal. Therefore, the question, Syed Zafar Islam, is you've created a trust deficit. Now you've sprung up a joint parliament session on the opposition, and you expect them to toe the line. They are going to be apprehensive, sir.
I don't know. There is absolutely no headroom for apprehension, any kind of apprehension, because it is something which the participation will come from the opposition parties. It is not only the Treasury bench who will debate. The debate has to happen between the Treasury bench and the opposition parties. All of them have to speak on whatever issues which will be transacted on the floor of the parliament. So the opportunity will be for everyone to speak. So the issues will be debated, discussed, and that is why the parliament is, that any issues of national interest needs to be debated and discussed on the floor of the parliament before it becomes legislation. And that is something which will also happen, and they will get to know prior to being discussed on the floor of the parliament. So like any other session in the past, historically, see whether it's Congress party or us.
But because you created that trust deficit. You were talking about internally on a committee on one nation,
no,
one poll. You sprung it upon the opposition. So therefore, why should they believe you? But having said that, I'll come back to you.
Listen,
I want to introduce our consulting editor, Rajdeep Sardesai, into this conversation as well. Rajdeep, you know, a trust deficit which lies bare, the opposition clueless on what this joint session is, the media deliberating because every day we have something new to discuss. Will it be one nation, one poll? Will it be UCC? Will it be Women's Reservation Bill? Or will it be a discussion on changing the official name to Bharat from India?
Look, the fact is, the practice has been that when you call a special session, you have a clear agenda before it. That's been the practice. If you recall, when the special session was called for the goods and services tax in 2016, or indeed when a special session was called to mark 50 years of independence. You have a clear agenda, and then there is a sense that both sides, the government and the opposition, know what a special session as opposed to a parliament session. We need to make a distinction between the two. And because this special session has been called suddenly without an agenda being specified, that's where the concerns are coming from. And I think it is incumbent on the government to address those concerns. If the government has nothing to hide, and I'm sure they have nothing to hide, they should put these, make it very clear what the special session is about. And the government and the opposition should be talking to each other rather than being able to have to write letters, Sonia Gandhi to Prime Minister Modi, then Prahlad Joshi, the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, to the Congress leadership. I mean, it suggests, A, the breakdown of trust. It suggests that the government may have some other motive which they only want to reveal at the last moment. And that doesn't help the functioning of Parliament. Just one more point, Preeti. The real truth is the 17th Lok Sabha has been the worst functioning Lok Sabha in the history of this country, both in terms of the number of sittings and the number of adjournments. And therefore, I think it is even more incumbent on the Treasury benches that run the House to make sure that this special session is productive. And to ensure productivity, or to ensure that whatever your agenda is fulfilled, you've got to make it clear. Why this cloak and dagger stuff is what I'm unable to understand. I think that's the problem. No problem with a special session of Parliament. The government has every right to call it. But when you call it, do not do it in a cloak and dagger manner is, I think, what most parliamentary experts are claiming. They're saying that raises questions over your motives.